How's it going? Mike, how you doing? Doing good. Had that work trip and now been taking it a little slow whenever I have a few days away from the charts. I like to, you know, watch them a little bit more than I trade them for a couple of days. So I've been taking it easy last few days. Welcome everybody. How we doing? Mike, uh, send that as not a direct message so everybody can see it so they know what I'm talking about. But honestly, you should never let a trade go 50%. I mean, that's the only answer to that. If your trade goes 50% before it goes green, that was a bad trade. That's how I trade. That's how most successful people trade. Like, you're never going to see me or flips or people like that in a trade that's down 50%. Um, there's just no reason to take on that risk. It just means that your entry was bad, which we're going to talk a little bit about entries today, which is fine. This isn't like pick on you. Tons of people have the same issue. Generally speaking, your trade goes down 50% before it bounces and sees green. That was a bad trade, bad timed entry on that trade. You should always stop out of something like that. And then, you know, what I like to tell people is you have to think, for say you're in a contract, it's $100. I'm just making up random numbers. You're in a contract, it's $100. Well, if it goes down 50%, that contract is now $50. So in order to get back to 100, that thing needs to double from that point on. So any of those people who are buying them, at $50, $60, they're trimming a lot of those contracts long before your entry ever comes back. So it's always important to remember, if your contract goes minus 50%, it now needs to double or go up 100% just to be break even. So 9 times out of 10, you're better off, have your defined stop loss. I don't like to do them by percentages. I always try to do them based on levels or EMAs or whatever, something like that. But have your defined stop loss, 15, 20%, whatever it is, and take the stop and look for a new entry because say you get in those things at $100 and it drops to 80, so you stop out. Well, maybe it's sold down to a nice support and you want to give them, another try at $50. Well, now you can get in at 50 and at 70, you're break even on the whole trade, and on something like Nvidia, it puts in those big moves to, help you make that, 20, 30% up. But it's always better to stop out where you planned on stopping out. That's like I always teach, build a trade plan is the best thing you can do. And if you know where you're entering, you know where you're stopping out, and you know where you're taking profit, that kind of answers the second part to your question of, how do you hold for longer? Well, you trade the chart in front of you, and if you're able to, if something's really, really running, let's see, uh, Let's just look at, well, this is XLF. Let's look at SPY today. So, maybe you enter some SPY calls. Say we just have this little range going on right here. Maybe you kind of chase. So you enter some SPY calls, or let's say this one, maybe you kind of chase. So you enter some SPY calls here. And you get a little bounce, but you don't sell. And then this next candle, it tells you to stop out, if it's closing below your range. So you follow your rule, you take your stop out for a couple buck loss and look for a new entry. And say, it could be a couple candles later, it could be entering just on this little pullback to, where your stop out price was or your entry price. Or it could even be over here with just a waiting, limit order. So, maybe you lose a couple bucks. No big deal. You can always look for a re-entry. Or if this thing ends up flushing, you can take that stop out for very, very minimal loss. And then if you want to look, had it pulled back to maybe, these are SMAs, but had it pulled back to this support, pulled back to these SMAs, look for a new entry down here if it pulls back to try to catch that bounce. But don't enter here, get obliterated, and then celebrate when you start making money, because when you stop following your plan, that's when you really start losing money. Welcome everybody. Hope we're all doing good. I'll give it a couple of more minutes. How'd everybody's day go? Hope we all have had a good one. This market's been wild this week, so I hope people have been capitalizing on some of it. iPhone doing good. How you doing? And if you don't got a name, oh, it's Rudy. What up, my guy? How you doing, Rudy? No, I can't just ignore him just because their name's iPhone. Raphael, how we doing? Sorry, I typed you out a message earlier and then I forgot to click send, so I sent it a while later. Wiz, how we doing? Ooh, took the swing on XLE, huh, Scotty? Yeah, that one got smoked, It's a big bounce on it though, but I probably would have taken the stop on selling like that. Yep, there you go. Nice. Yep, no big deal. And I get it. Like, this XLE is actually something we're going to talk about a little bit today, just because of this range that it's in. And that's what this lecture is going to be slightly different than other ones. So we'll talk about it once we get everybody in here. Son, good question. I prefer Thinkorswim. People use Webull. They're all fine. I just prefer Thinkorswim because there's no limitations on it. You can trade whatever you want. You get better fills. One of the downsides to it that some people don't like is commissions on the options trades. But really, not it. To me, it's so good. And when you couple it with Active Trader and having all your charts and everything in one place and orders one click away, I just prefer Thinkorswim. Barry, how we doing? Yeah, exactly. And Webull is really like, I mean, it is user friendly, it's kind of like that. It's still pretty simple. It's like the middle ground between Robinhood and Thinkorswim, Robinhood, wildly simple. Webull, pretty simple, but offers more than Robinhood. I do think Robinhood gives better fills, but offers more than Robinhood. And then Thinkorswim is sort of the just, if you need more than Thinkorswim, then you're probably a pretty serious trader. Scotty, TS as in trailing stops, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I just like Thinkorswim, you know, I mean, and that's the thing. That's why I don't, oh yeah. So I mean, it takes some learning, especially on the computer. But I just don't um, that's why I don't like things like, and if you use them, great. Like, don't, you know, I mean, just because I don't like something doesn't mean people shouldn't use it. But things like Trading View or Trend Spider, I just don't understand the idea of paying for something that all you can do is chart. You know, that just doesn't make any sense to me because like, I mean, you can chart for free on Thinkorswim. It's great, you know? And so I just don't understand why anybody would pay for a platform just to chart on, you know? Scotty, feel free to message me if you ever have Thinkorswim questions. I have done a couple of lectures on them. I've been meaning to get them pinned in my tab just for easier reference for people. But you know, if you ever got a question, just message me. Yeah, Mike and the river with that. Sorry, I was reading your next question or your next thing. The thing about the fills on Robinhood is that Thinkorswim is just faster. You know, you can click that button super quick. And so that is what makes it a little quicker than Robinhood, you know, having to hit a few buttons in a row. Share my TOS script. Yeah, but I got to figure out how to do it. Send me a message tomorrow and I'll try to get it over to you. But I have all the indicators I use pinned in my tab also. Oh no, Scotty, you don't ever worry about bugging me, man. That's what I'm here for. And that goes for everybody in here. You know, welcome everybody. That goes for everybody in here. My DMs are always open, you know. I'll get back to you if I can get back to you. And if I can't, then I can't, you know, but never, you know, I am in OOT to help all of you. So send me a message anytime you want. Yeah, and so you can do that with TradingView. You can, Raphael, you can link TradingView to other platforms like Tradeovate and things like that. But again, still to me, like the Tradeovate platform is really nice. And so I mean you might as well just trade on that. That's what I use for futures, you know, myself. So you know, I think it's great. I think it's Tradeovate's awesome. Okay, well with that, welcome everybody. I'm happy to have you here, Dirty River. Been a little occupied the last few days, so I haven't been as active in the group, but thanks everybody for being here. Tonight, you know, the description of the class was kind of a funny one, but we're gonna try to, yeah, Mike, even you can DM me. So I'm gonna try to do this a little bit different because, you know, we did, uh, like so for the last, you know, whatever it was, 8 or 9 classes, what I was trying to do is kind of just lay out every single thing that, you know, that I look at before entering a trade, things that I care about, things that I look at on my charts, how I chart my charts, you know. So then theoretically, granted it's, you know, 8 hours of videos or whatever, people can do basically exactly as I do. You know, there's some things we didn't cover, you know, volume, stuff like that, that is kind of, you know, we can teach you to look for things, but volume is something you really learn to understand just by watching it, you know, same as time and sales. So it's a very hard thing to teach in a class without having that live volume going on. I of course thought about doing it with futures, but there's basically no volume in the after hours. It's at least very low, you know, so it'd still be hard to do. But so tonight what we're gonna do is I want to, and while this is going to be similar to a charting lecture that I would normally do, we're going to go a little bit more in depth because normally when we do, you know, those weekly charting things, you know, people ask us, you know, hey, chart Apple or whatever it is, and we chart it. We don't really talk about the charting that we're doing, and then we kind of give some ideas on it. Well, I want to do that tonight where you guys will, you know, give me some stocks to chart, and then we're specifically going to look for things that are trading in ranges. So, you know, things that are on big breakouts. One just off the top of my head, Amazon. Likely not charting Amazon tonight because, you know, it's trending up, you know. And so we're going to look for things that are in ranges because as I've taught you guys in many of my classes, The market spends substantially more time in a range than it does trending. Of course, if you've only started trading in these last couple of years, first off, stick with it. I know it gets hard. But if you've only started trading these last couple of years, you've basically seen a market that has trended down and a market that has trended up nonstop. There's been some consolidation, but the market's making mostly upward moves or downward moves for the last couple of years. In a more normal market, things range. And a lot of people hate trading ranges. I love them. People know that I love to trade them. Just because of the simplicity of trading it. You buy calls low and you buy puts high. That's it. You want to short things at the tops of ranges and long things at the bottom of ranges. And so I like it because it's very simple. As a person that likes to scalp, if you have some support and resistance levels, a couple of EMAs, and a market that's in a range, you can pretty well make money. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And like I said, we'll be going through, in rushing speed. I'm going to have you guys say something you want to look at, and I'm going to chart it. I'm going to do my support resistance. I'm going to do my trend lines. We're going to talk about and quickly, everything's going to be going kind of fast. Why I'm putting levels there, why I'm putting trends there, EMAs and SMAs that I care about, and then if it's in a range where we want to be interested in trading it. And some things that we'll talk about tonight, maybe they're in the middle of the range, so we don't want to trade it. But some things might be at the tops of their ranges, some things might be at the bottoms of their ranges. And I just wanted to do this lecture because one of the number one complaints I hear from people is they hate days where the market ranges, a lot of Mondays or range days, things like that. And to me, I love them. And I think if people just had a better understanding of how to trade ranges, I think that most people would really, really like it. And so, as long as you're following your rules, ranges can be a very, very, fun and simple thing to trade. If you're a person that frequently goes looking for, you know, the big moves, the big breakouts, like Amazon's done the last couple of days, just been a runner, you probably don't like trading ranges at all because you watch your contracts just go green and red and green and red and green and red over and over. And for somebody who likes to, scalp or trade ranges, you might be in the same trade as the person who's trying to catch the breakout, but you might be in and out of the trade a few times, maybe only for 10 or 15%. And then maybe the breakout finally comes and they get, maybe they get 45% on their contracts. Well, I've already booked my 40% in my 3 trades taking 10 or 15%. So I don't have to worry about the breakout coming. Of course, that's when you can start to leave runners, blah, blah, blah. That's not really what we're getting into tonight. We're looking for those, consistent trades you can find basically every single day that will pay you 20% pretty consistently. We're all spoiled in here. We got good traders, we got good analysts, we got flips and voice chat. So we got people who, pretty regularly between all of us dish out some big percentage trades basically every day. This is, these trades can turn into those trades, but you always want to think of them more as a scalp sort of trade. And so with that, let's hear some things you guys are trying to trade. If they're in a range, we'll talk about them. If they aren't in a range, we won't talk about them. I already saw a couple of people sending things. QQQ, honestly, not a bad place to start. Because let's see, we can do this. As we all know, QQQ been the major one just in a pretty ridiculous range here for quite some time now. We're working on a couple months, probably somewhere in this area. And so QQQ stuck in a range. But we love that. We should love that as traders, especially when you're talking about, yes, it is stuck in a range. However, it's a big range because, some things will be a much tighter range than this. But it's a big range. And we like that because anybody in here that trades, QQQ, SPY, any of those things, our range right now is basically sitting about 447 all the way down to 433. $14 range. Anybody who trades those major ETFs knows that a $14 move is absolutely ridiculous on those. That is a gigantic return. But as I said, we aren't always looking for those moves. We're looking for our nice, safe moves. And so what I'm going to do, you saw here, I identified the range that I like. I basically just looked for these first two tops and then these bottoms just kind of lining up there. So really quick, then the next thing we do, we want to mark any major highs, major lows, and then any places where we really have kind of taken sort of a lot of bounces, rejects down to it, closes near it, just kind of trading around here. Again, big bounces up, act as support until we get big rejections. You want to identify anything like that. And then any of these kind of, reversal points. As we can see, we don't really have a ton on QQQ. In this big old range. People look at my charts a lot and say, oh, how do you trade? I'll actually even take note of this one. How do you trade with so many levels? Well, when you look at this is a $12 range right here, and we got 5 levels in it. There's, of course, more levels in there. And then the only other ones that you really want to mark, and you can put them on your chart. I'm going to change the color just so we know one is the top of the range, one is the bottom of the range. Now we have our levels. We know that there's really no trend. I mean, short-term trend. If you think that QQQ is in anything but an extremely bullish uptrend, even ignoring the range, you're crazy. Shoot me a DM. Let's get you right, But so strong uptrend overall, but rangy. So now we have our levels, and now we have to start to say, how can I trade around this? And how does it, how can I make money on this range? Because people keep saying, oh, I want the QQQ to break out, or I want it to break down, whatever. I want it to stay like this forever because it makes it very, very easy on us. So if we go into a shorter time frame, we'll do the 15-minute. We go into the shorter time frame, we can start to really look at these levels and say, how can I trade these intraday? And how you trade a range is extremely simple. You short the top and you long the bottom. And, sometimes you get lucky. I want to add a few more days to this. Well, even go more than that. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a beautiful rejection. I mean, double top at the top of the range. Of course, this double top did not cause this. That was that news day, but you got a double top at the top of this major, daily, weekly range. So you want to look to be short down here. Sometimes you get lucky and it's perfect like that. Typically how I will like to trade these things, and this is wider stops, safer trades. This isn't how you want to trade same days, on more specific movement. But if you were looking to play, say a bounce on something like QQQ, you want it down here. So what I always like to tell people is start your position before the bottom, because you won't it's not always going to be perfect. In fact, more often than not, well, those are the bottoms we set. More often than not, you aren't going to get the perfect top tick or the perfect bottom tick to get into them. And so you always want to be kind of saying to yourself, how much risk do I want to take on? So on QQQ, something like this right here, you can start to look to build in longs. I mean, as I did, as many people did, on that big old sell-off day on news, knowing that yes, you carry the chance of getting blown out, of it gapping below this range. But if you're trading some of these calls with time, then your stop is just outside of this range. You got a $1.50 risk of downside. And that's really all, that's all that you have to worry about. And so you can have these very, very, very defined entries where if we're starting to pull down to this 435, 434 area, that's where you want to start nibbling on some calls. On the other side, big green day, I of course typically don't swing long on the backs of big green days, especially on QQQ. In my opinion, a lot of this big push on tech today was kind of on the back of that Apple news. I mean, Apple was on a ripper today. And then good PPI. And so to me, the market, the market's still strong. Market wants to rally. So, and then you get some good Apple news, which Apple has just been the slug of the century for months now. You get some good Apple news and the market's really going to run on that. So that's what I think we saw today. However, we're at the top of the range. So I really have no interest in swinging long, especially I'm not swinging long on tech with QQQ looking like this. Maybe I miss a big old breakout tomorrow. But as I said, I'll be looking to push up to these highs, 447 area. And that's likely where I will be attempting to get short, stop right above it. So again, these are all levels. This is all a range from the longer time frames. I know my risk is defined. If I want to get in here 446.80, I can widen that stop out to 448 if my contract's got, a week or two on them. And know that I'm pretty safe. And if I have to take that stop out, I'm losing 1 delta's worth of value. So very, very little risk. Whereas if you get long, you're going to want your stop somewhere down here, 444, to see if that bounce comes. And I would much rather risk $1.20 of upside as opposed to $2.80 of downside. So that's where the kind of second part of this comes in. Whenever you're taking a trade, people hear me say it all the time, entry is everything. Entry turns a good trade great, and it keeps a bad trade not too bad. Then analyze your risk reward. Analyze your risk reward and say, where is there the potential to make more money? And we know if we're entering here, if we get that perfect test and we're entering here, we know we're risking $1.20 of upside. Well, we are looking for $2.80 of downside. So we already have a 1 risk, 2 reward, even a little bit 2.5 reward trade, which is a really, really great trade. Nice, safe trade. Of course, the other side of ranges, if we take a nice breakout and get a retest on it, then you can look to get long. But you don't want, what I always teach people is don't try to catch the breakout early. You don't want to be the first person in the trade. You'll hear people like me, people like Tilio say all the time, I will pay the premium. And what we mean by that is letting the breakout confirm before you get in. Think of the people who were buying calls for the breakout, smoked, buying calls for the breakout, smoked, buying calls for the breakout, smoked. And I mean, even if we go, longer time frame, look at all of these people who were trying to catch this breakout, try to catch the breakout. One time they catch a failed breakout and then failure, 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 failure over and over. So we see it all the time, and we joke about it. Don't buy calls at those breakout resistances, because that's when all of a sudden you got to sit in a trade for days that is, 40% down, 50% down, whatever it is. And, it's like I always tell people, and kind of like I was talking with, oh, there we go. Good morning. I'm trying to look at the chart or the chat, but there's a lot going on. So that's why I always joke, don't buy calls at resistance, don't buy puts at support. And that's what I was, talking a little bit with Mike earlier on is, take the safe, easy trade and don't take the trade that you have to go minus 50%. We were just talking risk reward. If you go minus 50% and then you sell when you're up 10 or 15%, I'm happy you made money. However, that was a really bad trade. And if you let it go minus 50% and you sell up 10%, that was a 5 risk, 1 reward trade, which is like truly horrible risk reward. That means if that is happening in all of your trades, if you do have to take a stop out, it now takes you 5 trades to get back to where you started. And so that's why it's never good to let those things go, let your contracts just get smoked. You're always better off looking for a better entry. Okay, so let's see. So that's QQQ. That's my feelings on QQQ. As I said, I'm not looking to be long up here. If we get that breakout retest, I'll look to be long up here. But for now, I'm not going to fight this range. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks into this range. Maybe it breaks, but maybe it doesn't. And I don't want to be the person that's in calls here before we get the $3 down candle that destroys you, So that's my view on it. Let's see, what do we got? Oh yeah, we got all kinds of things. Rev, how we doing? QQQ we did. Intel. Let's see what it's looking like. I thought that was just, yeah. That one we are not going to do tonight just because it is not in a range. It is coming into a point where I would take a stab long off that 3682. Burke B. Interesting one. I haven't pulled up that chart in a long time. Is that not it anymore? Do I have to put the dash? No. It is not letting me pull up Burke B. Oh, /B. There we go. Hmm. Interesting one. Could undoubtedly make the argument for it being in a range, but it's a bit of a wider range. And because it's dead center of the range, not a ton of interest in a trade around here. However, these dips down to 402, like we almost had today, probably getting to be a nice entry on the long down here. And then same as the upside, you don't want to be the first one in looking for that break over 430, even over 425, you know. But same thing. Strong uptrend. Like you know, if you zoom out on any of these names, like this thing's up. I mean, I thought at one point I saw it was up close to 100% since the lows. Probably is. Yeah, 259 to 430. So big run on that thing. You know, still be looking long, but you want to be looking to get long down here in this 400 area. At least in my opinion, that's how I'd be trading it. Not looking for a short entry around here, anything like that. I don't like to try to catch the move down, you know. If it's in the middle, I just don't touch it. I don't want to be the one who tries to catch the move down when it decides to bounce it and run up. But nice one. Ready for trading. Those options can be tricky to trade though with the liquidity on them. CCL. Not rangy enough for me to be talking range tonight. But I mean, I hope somebody took a stab long. Those slow stock movers. You basically have to take the stab there. That's nice. Did you hit that? Oh, we got JT and Hawkinson saying it. Yeah, those are sweet. CCL good. And you can make an argument that this is a big range, but like, you know, a $3 move on CCL is, you know, that's big. I mean, what, 20% move? So it's hard to think of it as a range when the swings are that gigantic. Yeah, and the delta on on CCL, all the Greeks on those cheap slow movers is wonderful. Raphael, what do you look for if it's in a range? I always look on the daily. You know, sometimes if it's only because you know a range can be tricky. Sometimes it's a week and a half, sometimes it's just a few days, sometimes it's like QQQ and it's 7 weeks, you know. If it's a shorter range that you think it's developing, then I'll bump it down to the 4 hour, you know, even 1 hour if I need more detail. But generally speaking, I'm going to be looking on the longer time frames for it. And then something like Ford, this is just an uptrend in my opinion. I mean, if I'm trading Ford, I'm in dip buyer mode on Ford, you know. This was a range, took the breakout, could be retesting it, but for now it's outside of this previous range. So you know, on Ford, overall strong uptrend. You know, looking to buy dips on that thing myself. Oh yeah, Rev, that big old sell day. I'm way behind in the chat, as you guys can tell, 10 minutes. Big old sell day, yeah. Some say it was the Fed, some say that it was war news. And then yeah, Kashkari, non-voting member coming out and the most hawkish member. And he for whatever reason, people decided to listen to him that day. It was just that, you know, multiple things hitting all at the same time. Yeah, Mike, those gray boxes that I was drawing, that's the range. Hassan, good question on a double top. Let's go back to QQQ because we can use it as a really good example because a double top for me, generally speaking, is something you want to be watching for ahead of time. So say we've set these highs up here on QQQ. We'll zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Say we've set these highs up here on QQQ, and now we've sold off, but we're kind of taking a bounce. Well, when we start taking this bounce over around here, this is where I want to be. I want to say, hey, we might double top. We don't exactly know this is a range yet, because it hasn't formed yet. We have set a high, we have set a low, but for all we know, we could break out. So you want to be prepared for a double top coming. And you could have been watching for it back here after the sell and bounce, still watching for it here, watching for it here. And then when we finally push up there, that's when you want to take your entry. Maybe you take it on the 5 minute, maybe you take it on the 1 minute or 5 minute, 15 minute, not 1 minute, sorry. Maybe you take it on those time frames, but you want to be looking for it on those bigger time frames and preparing for it. On the other side of things, let's see if we put in any. We really haven't, just because of how the market's been moving for us lately. So this one right here is an intraday double top that we talked. So when we sell down, I know we're in a range. I know this is the top of the range. As soon as we're selling down here, I am already saying to myself, I'm shorting the next pop to the top of the range. If I'm entering on the 5 or 15 minute, then my stop is going to be based on the 5 or 15 minute breakout of it. This, as we said, as news, ignore all that. But you take this double top short and you do pretty good. I think we did take this one that day that happened. Yeah, Rev, that's what I try to preach, man. Entry is everything. It makes everything easier in the market. And like I said, it can turn a good trade great. Like this one. This was the trade. This was like a trade of the year, like you won't see things like this often. And so I mean, a few times a year in a good year. And this one, you were just shorting a double top. I mean, maybe you were just looking for these lows because everybody knows I trade the opening range. And so on this day, this was the low for the opening range. So maybe you were just looking for the short to the opening range. Well, when it broke, you could have started trailing this. So your really awesome entry turned into a top tick on the market before a $11 sell-off. It's obviously don't ever plan on that kind of thing. There's a good amount of luck involved in that, but your entry is great. And that is what really sets you up to have a really nice trade. Yeah, Mike, exactly. Short the top, calls at the bottom. And yes, that is what it is. I like it. Mike, send your questions to everybody, dude. Don't just direct message me. It's better for everybody to learn. Think of a range as support and resistance, and think of it as an extremely strong support and resistance. Ranges are strong. As I teach everybody, statistically speaking, 80% of breakouts fail. So don't bet on the breakout. Bet on the breakout not working, and you will, or breakdown not working. Plan on a bounce here and a short here. And sure, you're going to get stopped out sometimes. And other times you are going to hit unbelievable trades that make up for any possible stop out. UNH, Elijah, I don't recognize that name. United Health, obliterated. Look at that thing. No, not a range. I mean, well, if you want to be technical, it was a range, I guess, got really down to about like right there. That it's now breaking down and losing this 200 SMA. So while this isn't a range anymore, I do want to point out that, and you can watch these wicks as well. Those could be some of your levels. But UNH, these are about the only, and you got to put 400 on there. These are really about the only levels that I have much interest in on UNH, because if we bounce back up to here, we've lost the 200 day, we've lost the range. The risk reward on this trade short is unbelievable. I mean, you're going to be risking something going, $3, $4, $5 against you. And that's a lot, but this is an expensive stock. If you're trading it, you probably have a bigger port. You're going to risk it going $3, $4, $5 against you, looking for $40 a downside. Obviously, you don't want to plan on the whole move coming, but could offer a very, very excellent short swing for sure. No, Mike, no trading in the middle of the range, in my opinion. If you're trading the middle of the range, you're guessing. Because as we see, like if we can just put a level, this isn't going to be the dead center, but all ranges are, generally speaking, all ranges are the same. You get the breakout here. So you think you try to buy calls and you get smoked, or you get a couple candles that look like they're probably going to break out. But they don't. And so you get smoked trying to be long here. Maybe you get the bounce up and you try to short the middle of it and it pulls back, or maybe you short the middle of it and it breaks out 40 bucks against you. You can start to analyze volume and things like that. But like even this one, we're having reducing volume on this whole buy up until the top, very low volume day, short that thing, no questions asked. But when you're down here, I mean, you don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what it'll do. Maybe it'll bounce, maybe it'll break down. So you don't ever want to do something like that in the middle of the range. Yeah, Raphael, you're exactly right. For smaller reports, something like QQQ or SPY or anything like that, 2 weeks out, likely going to be too heavy to go at the money. So you can go a little bit out of the money. But I want to touch on that, and I know I'm way behind. I'm still 10 minutes behind. I want to touch on that because, I saw somebody today, they bought, and I said, and I mean, I'm happy for them. They bought 517 calls at the bottom, is what that was their statement. And good for them. There's no reason, as same days, there's no reason to be in $5 out of the money calls. They're cheap for a reason. However, what I like to tell people, we'll go to QQQ. If we're trading in a range, and we'll just look at it, we'll go 4 hours so we have a little more detail. We're trading in a range. You want to short QQQ. The rule of thumb that I like to give people is you don't want to be more out of the money than your price target. So say we're up here, you're shorting 447. Safest, although most expensive and potentially like larger dollar loss per contract, smaller percent, of course. But say you're in 446 puts. That's great. However, your target's 444. So you can we're trading at 447. If you're trying to trade a trade for a few days, you're getting a couple week out contracts, you can start to go to that 444, 443 area. What you need to understand is your delta is reducing dramatically. So if we're trading at 447, don't be the guy in 430 puts, but keep it reasonable, $3, $4. I mean, $5 if you're really looking for a big move, but it's important to sometimes say, hey, this trade isn't for me. And you don't have to go full 2 weeks if you expect a nice volatile rejection, just get yourself 4 or 5 days can often be enough. Oh, well, I had a question about volume and I just did a little bit of volume talking right there. What platform is this? This is Thinkorswim. Nope. Agent haven't done XLE, but we'll do that one next. I'm just going to try to see. I'm going to try to see if we got anything in here. Yeah, we got a lot more requests. Okay, we're going to do XLE real quick. Obviously, a sector you do not want to bet against at all right now, at least in my opinion. Been very, very strong. However, for about this last week, setting up a very, very nice range for us. Extremely simple to trade, nice and tight range. You got a $1.20 range on it. And we can see it right here, super simple. You can either go whole round number, 97, all the way down to 96.90. We can look at this right now, and then really we could put this up here as kind of, our high. Obviously, 98.20, been hard to get past. You look right here. You buy calls at 97 and you stop out below 96.90. I mean, if you want a wider stop, yeah, you should probably have a wider stop than 10 cents, so you could really bump it down right there. We'll call it 22 cents is your stop out. But you can get long anywhere down to here, stop below here. very, very, very little risk. As we said, 22 cents looking for, even if we're just looking for these previous highs, we're getting a $1.20 upside. So one risk, 5 reward trade. Long at 97 is basically the no-brainer on these energy stocks right now. For anybody who doesn't know, XLE's oil companies and some solar companies, but mostly oil companies. And so the energy trade's hot, not something I want to bet against just yet myself. And so those longs at 97 printing, shorts at 98 printing. Easy range to trade. And obviously, you want to be trimming as you go. For anybody who doesn't trade XLE, you get a buck move on some XLE contracts and you are doing pretty dang nice. TSM. Well, kind of finally breaking out of it's very it's last, weeks of range. Forming another right now though. I'm really gonna go to the hourly for this. Some nice volatility on that thing. So nice range yet again, as you guys see. I do everything the same every single time. Entry is everything for us. Obviously, any longs down here, all the way down to about 144 for now, until this range breaks, all the way down to 144. Really nice place to try to be stabbing at some longs. Then this bounce up here, all the way 147.75-ish, break up 148, really strong close over 148. You probably want to be getting out of that thing, but offering you a nice $3 a downside or $3 a upside, depending where you hit it. Just keep it super simple, as we said, no interest in the middle of the range. Maybe it breaks out over it. Maybe it bounces off of it. Maybe it breaks below it. We don't know what it's going to do there in the middle. So we don't want to trade it in the middle. We want to trade it at the extremes of the range. As I've been really trying to beat India, the main reason we do this is the risk reward. The risk is tiny when you trade the edge of ranges. So it's a TSM, nice one. Who said that? Well, now I don't even see the question. I kept scrolling. Whoever called this one out, shout out to you. Thank you. PLTR. Didn't that thing? Yeah, see, you can see its range it was in. Yeah. No interest in that thing. Let's get that back down to 17 where it belongs. Fake stock. Disney. You could play this range here on Disney, but I don't love it. It's tradable. Let me look at it on the 4-hour. I mean, it's tradable. Just right in the middle though. But dip buyer all the way down to 116 on Disney. I'm still remaining bullish on Disney. I mean, those are great earnings. They're doing some like CEO switch ups again or something. I don't know. We'll see. And but staying bullish on Disney for now. Hope it doesn't get clobbered tomorrow or something crazy. But really a pretty easy dip buy all the way down to 114. But you can play that little range if we happen to dip to 116. Great place to at least try to get long on it. Not a bad one. Nice call, Jay. Rudy, good question. I think I get what your question. I think I get what you're saying. So on a day, I think you're talking about, a day like this or something. Huge sell-off, on bad news. And do you really want to take the risk of buying calls down here on the chance that you get more continuation? Maybe you don't though, because there is risk to it. That was even what I said here. There is the risk that you short this and the market wants to keep going. So if you do swing calls on this, this is a lot more high risk because there was, some backing on it. Even the big CPI drop that we had. Do you really want to be stabbing into calls? Maybe not, because the risk is higher on the back of news. However, in a normal market, not news affected, to me today, the risk reward is amazing to be swinging short on today. Maybe you get blown out on the gap, but to me, I would take this risk a bit more comfortably than I would take the risk on, this day. I took the risk, but a bit more comfortably than I would take the risk on this day because you just don't know if there will be continuation. Giovanni, I think he said his chin got in the way. Disney, we did. Tesla. What's going on Tesla? Oh, they needed to break over that level. Keep having to pull this thing up. Tight range. I mean, and gave the breakout retest on this trend. We'll see if this one wants to hold. Man, their financials are just clobbered though. It's not the buy. Nice double bottom on that. Shark was harping that double bottom. I mean, for me, no interest in it right here. I'd really want to see it above that 180. I mean, really above that 50 SMA, but I'd want to see it above that 180 to get really putting in a Tesla style upside move, but I just don't know if that's coming soon. I'll be looking for 180 to short that thing again though. Hassan, I don't remember where. Oh, I bet that was QQQ based on that price. This one, yeah, I bet you're asking me about this short up here. It depends the trade I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a longer term trade and I'm getting short right here, then I am gonna widen my stop to that all-time high. But if I'm scalping intraday and I'm shorting this double top or whatever, my stop is outside of the range. I want to ratchet those stops up when I'm trading intraday. And maybe I short this and it bounces a little bit, it bounces a buck or whatever, so I stop out. Well, if we break back into this range and we're looking like we're going to sell, I will happily re-short it. I just would rather, admit I'm wrong sooner than later on any sort of scalp. Scotty, we did XLE. JPM we can look at, but that thing's been on a tear. Took a nice little sell down to this strong support into earnings to oh no, nice earnings out. Oh no, dividend. There's earnings. Is that tomorrow? Yep, earnings tomorrow pre-market. So, I mean, yeah, a little range, but financial's been hot. I'm not going to bet against them. And look at this run on JPM. Financial's been hot. I don't want to jump in front of that train. And we can chart this range. We're basically sitting at the low of the range. So the answer is long, but if earnings are bad tomorrow, this thing's going to sell heavy. If earnings are good tomorrow, it'll blast. Oh, the statistical percent for Mondays being range as well is pushing like 60 or 65%. So 6 out of 10 times you're seeing a range. I love the morning from the Philippines. I think that's where you're from. Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, bought 190s on Apple. Was that you that I told to not buy them? I bet, see, dude, and then I bet those things paid today. Yep. Any of those far out of the money, that nonsense, the theta will kill them. Any move against you will kill them. Oh, Gaddy, we swung some calls at the top of the range. But then this is the thing, tech is not something I'm betting against. I mean, we do have financial earnings tomorrow, which is likely going to be, which is going to be the market mover. I didn't swing short. I would support people more if they swung short than long here, but financials could be the thing to bust this. So they had an additional thing working against us there. Crash, we did do Tesla. Um, XLE and a bull flag. I mean, yeah, you could say that, but I don't trade flags. As everybody, people who come to my lectures all the time, I don't trade flags. I don't trade named patterns. This is consolidation, and what a flag is consolidation. So to me, this is consolidation. That's how I think about it. Oh, we got Wells Fargo tomorrow too. Yeah, we could see some moves off of that, Rev. Mike, yeah. So how I mark my range, and I've done my lecture on this, I really am just looking for places, once it's been forming for a little bit, something like QQQ, my range on this one is basically based off these two tops right here, because those were the really major tops. Then This was the major bottom where we've bounced. So once these candles have formed, I'll draw my range there. So we know it, we're at the bottom of the range here. We're at the top of the range here. And we know that as we're moving up to it. Same sort of thing. When we're down here, I ain't swinging short on that because we're near the bottom of the range. Yeah, market ranges most of the time, Gaddy. And I mean, to me, it's, you typically aren't going to see those 1,000%ers trade in the ranges, but man, you see 20, 30, 40s all day long. Oh yeah, Shake, we do got a few. I get that 50 to 60 range when that's a good day. It's a good day. SMCI at the double bottom recall. I mean, no, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't. You're gonna have to ask Norvin about this one. I'd want to see it breaking up here to be getting long. I'm not, like I said, I don't try to catch that breakout early. I mean, if anything, I'd be kind of looking to short that. I mean, it looks like the 900 could have paid you, but not for me. Scotty, what is the minimum time to define a range? That's where it can get tricky. Like I said, with QQQ, we can look at that one again. I don't know how many days that is. What, 30 days, 30 trading days, something like that. That's a strong range. Then you go to something like XLE, and technically speaking, we're on day 5, and we're really just trading the range of this big candle. So, I mean, I really just want to see a high get set, see a low get set. Maybe that's, 3 candles, maybe it's 10 candles. It'll just kind of depend on the chart. D-Dog, huh? I don't even know that was still a company. Wow. Yeah, it did. Elijah. Nice call out. You had another call out earlier tonight. Good on you. And I don't even recognize your name. Yeah, and see, this is a really nice one. As I mentioned earlier to people, 80% of breakouts fail. So failure, 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 failure. So we got 4 failures here. And then 5th go around, there it is. It's perfect. I mean, it even gave you that little baby close outside of it if you really wanted to risk the swing, followed by a big gap and run. I wonder if they had news on that move. Good eye, Elijah. Beautiful one. And if you long these lows down here, you were printing on that thing. Intel not in a range, so we aren't going to talk about it. I pulled on up earlier. We got a whole list from Chen here. Starbucks definitely not in a range. Getting clobbered. Coming down to some, what is that? What's that old box I got down there? Oh wow. An old range. Yeah, take a stab, 83. That's the place to be trying to get long on that thing. Long at 83, stop at 82. Love it. Netflix. Oh yeah. I was actually trading Netflix here recently. Tricky one to trade. I mean, God, putting in moves still like every day, huh? Tricky one and not ranged enough for tonight's talking. But this is you buy the pullbacks on that. Really what I would be looking at would be something like this little trend right here. Just based off these 2 candles and buy those dips down 620, 615 area. Lyft, huh? Is it looking like Uber? No, no. Interesting. Could almost make a little argument for a little range like this that it's attempting to break. It's hard because I don't want to be early and just get smacked down by this 2021 area again, but you could potentially catch a nice little move up on that. Let's see this on the 4-hour. It is taking that nice trend break. Nice eye. Lift I'm liking. Let's get a dip to 19 for me to get in there. Nice eye, Chen. Thank you. Great one. Big breakout on it today. Got volume backing it up even. That was a nice one. Good eye there. Oh man, when IWM does it, it's gonna be wild. I am sad. I missed that 200 dip yesterday. This was like the most epic range ever though. This is the weekly chart. And this is, I mean, look at this. This is almost 3 years of breakout that it still hasn't confirmed, like it's trying its best, but when that thing flies, 250 incoming. Oh yeah, Jay, that's what you should be training with bank earnings coming. XLF. I mean, you're you know, you're still going to have high risk. Your IV is going to be a little bit higher due to those earnings. But man, give me a, give me a, if you're bullish on financial earnings, give me a 41 XLF call to like a JPM 200 call or something like that. This thing will print if you can get a buck 50 pop out of it on the back of some good earnings. Or if you get smoked, the contracts are going to cost you 40, $50. So no big deal. Oh, see you, Empanada. Explain the relation between individual stocks and some like Nvidia or AMD with SPY or QQQ and the range on them. Well, it's important to remember that SPY and QQQ are ETFs, so they actually hold shares of these companies. So you can pretty well look at them, and if you got, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft in a range, SPY and QQQ are going to be in a range too, because they're going to track very, very similar as long as all the names are doing something. So that's the main thing that I would watch for. Oh, Citibank announcing too, isn't it just Citigroup? Oh, oh yeah, Citi tomorrow morning. Set up for a ripper. I mean, we'll see how these bank earnings come out. I'll be pretty interested. That's probably about what I'd be looking to play on that. I mean, if they do have some funny earnings, I'd probably still be trying to buy the dip down here all the way to 59 or so. But yeah, Citi could do it. Predictions for Nvidia tomorrow? Who knows? Probably going to the moon. Isn't that like all that thing does? Yeah, look at that. No. That is a strong breakout on pure buyers right there. Man, even looking at it, I mean, this gave you that range low dip buy even too. Nice Nvidia. How much that thing moved? $60 or something off those lows? Wow, even more. Man, down to 830. $70 off them lows. Mike, I just want to see how tomorrow goes. Like, I'm not going into tomorrow with a bearish bias because we have, QQQ sitting at the top of its range. Because, as I said, those financial earnings uh are likely going to be what moves the market, and they could lead that breakout on QQQ. Don't get me wrong, QQQ is not financials, but market moves together pretty much. So if we get that big breakout on XLF, which is obviously a big part of SPY will move, QQQ will likely move with it. But if we are faltering up here and rejecting and rejecting and rejecting, yeah, I'll be short on that thing. Yeah, Hassan, I do have a recorded one. I got multiple on support and resistance in the live classes tab. Yep, Raphael, opening range, something different. Opening range is just that intraday range stuff that I trade all the time. And so that would be intraday. However, if we have something like if we go into tomorrow, and the top of the opening range happens to line up somewhere around here, then you can add some extra emphasis on that. Same as if I don't think we're gonna be down here $12 tomorrow. But if for some wild reason we were down here and the opening range low was right there, there's a 99% chance I am in calls at it. Yep, Rev can't time nothing. Oh, I already answered in my bullish or bearish. I'm neither. I just let the market do what it wants to do. Apple's still a tricky one. Really like big breakout on it. Oh yeah, I was looking at an old trend line earlier today. Big breakout on it for me today. Again, mostly news backed, but to me, seeing this big, the final trend break, I likely think it wants to go up here and test this 50, but there's no, that's where the next big resistance is going to be for us, is kind of really just going to be this high over here and then this high here. So really, if you're long, you want to start being real cautious long if we push up to here. But we start breaking above it again, we can push, maybe go touch that 200 day. However, Apple's still pretty huge day out of it, big news for it. But Apple's still been the slug, so I'd be careful on it. Microsoft. Let's check it out. Yeah, tight range. Let's yeah, let's get one going on here. Wonder if everybody use that name. Nice range on Microsoft. I mean, to me, that's gonna be that 430. I mean, that 430 should basically be everybody's line in the sand. You want to see some serious volume coming in behind that thing off 430 to get that breakout. Of course, I'd wait for the breakout retest myself. But for me, that's where I'd be looking to get short on that thing. I mean, even today's entry, that 429, that close to 430, that was probably a pretty easy stab on the short to catch a nice little sell into close. But I would personally be waiting for that 430 breakout, see if it's going to get some volume behind it. But same as all ranges, I'm short up here, I'm long down here. We can see that's worked pretty well so far. Lift I like. I'm sorry, I'm so far behind always. Lift I like. I especially like it on a pullback down to about 1920, likely stops under 19, very small risk. To see if maybe we can push them highs sooner than later. Financials being priced in, could be, but also like they're putting up good numbers. So you can't really I mean, you know, everybody wants to say things are priced in, but in my opinion, like if the numbers are still good, then no, it's just pushing. It's not pricing anything in per se. You could be right. We could see some sell on it, some profit taking on it, but if numbers remain good, there's no reason to sell. They aren't pricing anything in as much as just, pricing in good numbers and running it up. But it's not like I wouldn't think of it as a priced in thing just yet. Uh, Yeah, I mean, so I got another question here, Giovanni. If QQQ breaks above that range, NVIDIA calls can pay. Yes, theoretically. But you don't, you know, you want market strength, I mean, because it can also go the other way. Maybe QQQ wants to break out, but NVIDIA is the weak one on the day. So you can't just say if QQQ breaks out, NVIDIA will be strong. Because it's the same thing like with Apple all year, QQQ has been putting in very nice upside moves while Apple's been selling all year. You don't want to just like cut and dry say QQQ breaks out, NVIDIA is going to run. It can, of course, help it, to have the tech breakout, push something like NVIDIA, obviously. But you can't just use that as your only form of confirmation. The opening range, that's what I post to my tab every day. It's a thing from Al Brooks, based on statistics. First hour and a half of the day, basically 90% of the time, you have set high or low of day. So if you see those posts in my tab, that's what that green box is. And that's just a statistic. I like trading around statistics in the market, and that's one that works for me, You couple that with knowing most breakouts fail, and that thing can become a real powerful tool for you. Oh, what up? We got Nando in the house, dude. Thanks for joining. Walmart. 1K I saw mentioned the other day. God, he was mentioning like 4 or 5 days ago. He was probably sniping the bottom on that thing. I don't like seeing that rejection on it, but is it just kind of retesting for us? I haven't really, I have paid zero attention to Walmart since the split. So let's just because I saw 1K mentioning it, let's check this thing out. I mean, it's worth a shot at 60 on a pullback. I mean, it's nice that this thing's so cheap now. Definitely worth a shot long on that 60 to see if this breakout wants to hold. And your stop's going to be tied only 50 cents or so below you. So your risk will be super tiny. So ugly day on it. Which I don't know why. Maybe, consumer things like this had a weird day. But with big up day on SPY and QQQ, interesting to see this one weaker. But yeah, I would keep your eye on that. Actually, I like Walmart here. Oh, Empanada, Ford. Yeah, we were just talking it. Ford, I like strong uptrend. I'm basically a dip buyer all the way back here to 1250-ish area. This trend, we'll start to see fourth, fifth test as we get onto it. That can be the time that it breaks. But I'm definitely getting to almost the dip buying point on Ford. And then yeah, you said you haven't seen me trading it. I want things to be worth I love trading tea. It's cheap and everything. And we did hit it when it was at, 12 or $13 or $10 or whatever those lows were. But I like these things to be worth like, $12 at least. Just to kind of make the move happen a little bit sooner, like if you got a $9 stock and you know you need that thing to put in a 10% move to pay you one delta. So I trade things less than $10, $12, a lot less. I was hammering Ford when we were back here, these 15 areas. I loved that nice bounce on it. 14, 15, it's way easier to move a buck than it is at $9. So that's it for me. Yeah, thank you for being here. Yeah, awesome turnout. I see we're running 5 minutes late tonight. Awesome turnout. Thank you everybody for being here. I see we still got some couple more questions in here, but thank you if you got to get out of here. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Trading ranges. If I didn't cover anything good enough, if you got any other questions, feel free to shoot me a DM. I will always happily answer them. And thanks for being here. Oh, what books do I recommend to study? Not a huge fan of trading books per se. There's some good ones, of course, like the psychological ones everybody loves, Mark Douglas, even Tom Haugard or whatever has a good one out. But for me, if I'm studying trading and I'm studying a trading book, it's Al Brooks. I just don't think there's anybody on the planet better at reading price action than him. He has, 40 years in the market. He's not a furu, and uh, he loves statistics. So he has some really, really good statistical stuff that you can read about the market that I think it can benefit everybody. And even just his like he has a book, Trading Ranges, Trading Trends. I mean, he is unbelievable. So he's really the only trader I recommend a lot. Yeah, right on. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you all. Lambos. Lambo's always here. My brother. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thoughts on SMCI? That was the one we kind of touched on earlier. Just seeing this breakdown on it under this trend. It's SMCI. The thing could rip $100 tomorrow, but I would be cautious long on this trend. If we are able to, break this trend, break 20 SMA, I think that thing gets to running, but for me, it feels a little early on the long, unless you're already long from, these 870, 80 areas, but feels a little early on the long for me. Yeah, right on. Thank you, everybody. And if that is going to do it, we will call it a night here. SPY. Yeah, I guess we didn't even talk about SPY today. Let's get a clear one, not my daily chart. SPY. And the tomorrow, big, people have been extremely quick to sell and extremely quick to buy on SPY lately. This is obviously going to be our, this was our technically our lower high, technically setting lower highs down here still. And then obviously we have some weird little lows. But something that I had been talking about a lot, it's been this 5 and 13 EMA. I trade it, Tilio trades it. We, for the first time, are kind of having some daily crosses on this thing. So we are definitely starting to get into a little bit more range trading. We have this, big heinous candle here, but we're getting into a little more range trading action. But we will see if XLF is the thing tomorrow, or as financials and other earnings kick off. I don't believe we'll be staying in this, 510, 520 range for very long. But we'll see. Yeah, right on. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Awesome class tonight. Great questions and some great ideas from you all. I really appreciate that. Thanks for getting my eyes on a couple of those things. I like Lyft. I like Walmart too. Those are some good trades to XLE, easy range right now. And great job, guys. Thank you all so much. And we will catch you tomorrow. Right on, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.